Welcome back. This is Geno, and this is Native as I Can Be. And my very special guest, maybe the most special guest of all, is my mom, Karen. Mom, how are you doing?
Doing good, Geno.
She is joining us all the way from Missouri today. So you may be the furthest guest geographically that I've ever had on the show, furthest away.
Yeah, it's a long ways, trust me.
The reason you're on today is I've done an episode already about adoption with Astrid and how she was essentially stolen from her mom in Colombia. This story is not not like that, but it is an adoption story, and it is Adoption Awareness Month. So, but before we get into that, do you want to tell us a little bit what it was like? You grew up on Smith River in Southern Oregon with four sisters and
No, I have
five sisters and one brother.
Uh-huh.
So tell us a
Yeah.
little bit what that was like, kind of what your day-to-day life was like there on Smith River.
Okay, we had, it was a farm, and there were six of us girls, and then my brother was the baby, and we had a dairy farm, so it consists of milking cows and chasing cows, and it's a lot of physical work to it, and we're pretty secluded. We lived like 10 miles from town, so we didn't go to town very often. Going to school was our trip to town. And there was usually a lot of family around. I had grandmas that lived with us, great grandmas that lived with us, and cousins were always popping in and out during the summer.
So what time would your day start normally?
Well, it depends. Sometimes, because my dad he had to log also, so he'd have to catch a crummy. So sometimes we'd have to get up. I didn't even know what time it would be. It would be dark, and we'd go out and help him bring the cows in and get the cows milked, and usually on weekends. The nurse always haying to do, and at night the same thing, get the cows back in and take them down. We'd take turns, whoever's turn it was, help my dad milk them, and then we had to feed hay to him. And in the summer there was we did a lot of haying for the cows and big gardens. We kept busy.
Was the idea behind having so many kids just so they had a built-in workforce? Is that...
I don't really know. I don't know, because if my dad was trying to have that boy, and it was the last one coming, if he had had a boy first, maybe we would have quit. But we worked. We worked when we was very young. That's just what you did. You chopped wood. We went out and hauled wood. We never thought anything about it. It's just what you did. It was our job. We did it. And I don't think anybody is upset about any of that. We all have a good work ethics because of that, I'm sure.
In Reedsport, was there a lot of kids doing that?
I think all the kids that lived out of town, they all did. Sure, they all worked hard. They were big farms, and times were tough down there. A lot of dads had to work outside the farms, so that put the burden on the rest of the family when they had to go catch a crummy instead of staying home and working. During the haying season, it would just be my mom and us girls and, well, Bear, my brother, but it would just be us, and sometimes cousins would be coming by and helping us out. And my dad's dad, my granddad, lived down the road, and he'd come up once in a while and help us put the machinery back together again. But we basically did it. And at one time we did shad fishing, which would go out in the middle of the night on the river and put these great big nets out across the river. And we did that, and we'd have to go back out early morning and pick them all back up again. And then during the day, we'd have to go pull all the nets up on docks and string them all out and mend any tears and stuff in them.
What would you do with all those?
There was a place that we sold them downtown. It would be a boatload of shad, and it was to make money.
Grandpa Lyle had polio, right, as a kid?
Yes, he did. Yeah, it was never talked about. In fact, we didn't even know he had polio till somebody mentioned it to us when we were in high school. He told us he was a cowboy and he was bow-legged, and that's what we believed because they didn't talk about health problems and stuff like that. Everything was hushed up. So we had no idea he had polio till we were teenagers, late teenagers. He told one sister that it was because he kept going around a mountain, the same direction all the time. So his leg was shorter. But yeah, he had polio. One leg was a lot shorter. And he'd had several surgeries in him before him and my mom got married. And trying to fix it, they put weights on it, trying to make one grow and different things. But of course, nothing worked. But yeah, but he got along fine. It never slowed him down. It just made everything more challenging, I think.
Yeah, he had a very distinctive limp, but I never remember him or Grandma really. They were pretty active, really for as long as I'd known him, and they were always walking and hiking and doing all kinds of stuff. Which was pretty admirable.
It was, and as he got older, what would happen? It wouldn't be his bad leg. It would be because of the leg that was a normal size. It would be at such an angle trying to make up for the short leg that he would wear out his knees and hips and stuff. So he'd have to get them replaced. But it was more on his good leg than his bad leg. Is just the way it was. But he never complained until he got older, and it got to hurt quite a bit. Then he complained a little bit, but not much. He wasn't a complainer. He'd complain more about having a cold than he would for pain.
Could probably do. He was a really interesting. There could be. You could go an hour just talking about him and Grandma. They had a really interesting life.
They did.
And they were super cool to the grandkids all the time. Used to love going and hanging out with them because at Grandpa's funeral, I remember I wore a Blazers shirt because that was kind of our thing, was hanging out and listening to Blazer games and watching Blazer games, and so he's responsible. I can trace all my Blazer love back to him. We listened to all of them.
I think you probably enjoyed him more than we did because he had to work so much. In the mornings, unless we were down helping him, we didn't see him. We'd go to school and not see him. We got off the bus, we'd go and get the cows in, and if it wasn't our turn to help with the milking, then we probably wouldn't even see him because he'd come in late and we'd already be in bed. And so our big deal was on Sundays, we always had Sunday dinner, and we'd have it at 2:00. That way the whole family could be there. And it was always a great big deal on Sunday to have dinner together. So, but he didn't have a lot of time to spend with us. But we got rid of the dairy farm, then he went to beef, and he had a lot more time. And we went camping. I remember when we went camping when he was milking cows, we would load up and head up to some park, and then when it came afternoon, him and one of the girls would have to go back down to the farm and milk the cows and then come back up that night or the next day or something, because you can't skip milking cows. Somebody had to do it. So he did that. He tried to spend time with us, and lots of times when it wasn't our turn to work at the barn, we'd all end up down there because he always listened to music, and he had a big old chart made down there, the hit parade that they played on the radio every Saturday night, and we were all down there, and he sang and he told us stories to kill time, and he didn't make things ugly. It was okay.
But did you like living in Reedsport overall? I guess you weren't in Reedsport, but...
No, I don't. I like living out of town. I didn't then, of course, but now I look back and I thought, well, if I'd been in town, I probably would have been bored to death because, up the river, we was always doing something, probably things we shouldn't be, but probably nothing that would hurt anybody. So kept us out of trouble, and we kept busy all the time. We'd swim the river, and there was always something we could find to do. We had horses, and Reedsport, it's a pretty small town, not much to do down there.
It's funny to me that that's how you grew up, and I'm pretty staunchly kind of a city kid.
Yeah, you're definitely.
I fell way far from the tree as far as that goes. Moving on to your teen years. So how old were you when you found out you were pregnant with Bill?
I was 19, and I was living up in Portland. I just moved up there and was staying with Dixie, my older sister, and working up there. And found out I was pregnant then.
And didn't you graduate when you graduated at 17, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
And did you split right soon after that?
Like next day. Maybe that night.
What was the appeal to move to Portland?
Well, I just thought if I didn't, I would be expected to, marry the neighbor boy and keep on milking cows the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. I wanted something bigger and better. I wanted to see something besides the city limits of Reedsport. I just wanted to go and experience and see things.
What number were you in? Were you the second oldest?
Yes.
And so she had already gone and established herself and said, "Come on up."
Yeah, she was married and living down by Taggart. I don't know if she said, "Come on up." I think my girlfriend and I went and stuck our thumbs out and hitchhiked up there and called her when we got to Portland and said, "We're here."
Oh wow! Did you let them know you were leaving, or did you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew I thought of, but I was only 17. And so it wasn't really an option. And plus, it's so far from town, you couldn't really work unless everybody had their own car. And most of the time we had one car, maybe two. So I couldn't even go to work. I was just sitting there on the farm. So it's time to go.
They didn't have any problem with you hitchhiking to Portland?
They didn't know.
Oh, they didn't know. Okay, that's what I was asking. Is if you had let them know you were taking off.
No. I think I probably told them I was staying with my friend, and my friend probably said she's staying with me. And then we got there, we called them and immediately and told them, and not much they could do about it. And they didn't do anything about it. And I went right to work, and everything was fine. I guess we wasn't smart enough to know not to hitchhike. But we got a truck right out there on 101, and he took us all the way up to Portland.
So how did you meet Bill's dad? Dan, right? Dan is his
name?
Yeah,
I went to school with him.
Oh, and he was up in Portland?
No, he was in the service. I mean, we was together, but he had to go in the service. And I can't really remember if I was pregnant before he went and didn't know it, or if he came home on leave, or I can't remember what the deal was. But he was over in Vietnam. He's in the Marines. So I didn't know what to do. And I called my mom, and she called my sister, I think. Anyway, they figured out I need to go to a home for unwed mothers because Dan wasn't going to be home soon, and there I was by myself. And so they put me in a home for unwed mothers. That's where I stayed.
And you stayed there while you were pregnant. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I did. But they had a program there that people up there can hire you out to live with them and help take care of their family and stuff. And you get a whole $20 a month. I mean, $20 a week for doing that. But it gets you out of the place where I was staying because it wasn't very comfortable. So I went and stayed with this family, and they had 3 or 4 kids, and they were both school teachers. And so I stayed there until it was time to have the baby, and then I went back over to the home and had the baby. And then when the baby was gone, I ended up going back there and staying for a month and trying to figure out what to do.
Just the name of it, the Home for Unwed Mothers, it just sounds so old school and, harsh.
Yeah, it was. And they didn't have parenting classes or birthing classes, and there was little kids in there 12, 13 years old and pregnant.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was scared. I hadn't been around when my mom was pregnant. We didn't even know she was pregnant. Pretty soon there'd be another baby. But it was just something no one talked about. And but the hot, it was pretty. It's like a little residential motel sort of thing, I guess. But the hospital, when we went in to have the baby, it just seemed dirty, and I was in labor forever, and they don't really give you lots of pain medicine, and the nurses were cranky, and I was scared to death, and they didn't tell us breathe. They didn't tell us what to expect. We just thought go in, have a baby, and leave. But it wasn't
Hmm.
like that. It was not a good experience. It was scary.
So was your plan all along to place him in adoption, or
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I never thought about. Well, I don't like abortion, so I never passed my mind to do that. But I just never. I didn't know there were social services. I didn't know I could get any help to support the baby, and I just thought I have nothing to offer. Just out of high school and not working now, and I didn't even have a car. Nothing. I could not. There's no way I could take care of him. So,
hmm
and these guys promised this. It was called. I can't remember the name of it, but they came in and talked to me and made these promises, and it's going to a good home, and he is going to a good home and everything. So, I just thought that was probably the best option, the only option actually, and so I took it.
did you meet the would be parents?
No, I didn't. They told me about him, and up there in that home there was this like attic sort of place, and it had sewing machines, and we could go up there and sew. So I made a whole bunch of diapers and T-shirts,
Hmm.
and you got to take those with them. And when you had the baby, you were there for like 10 days taking care of him, and then they took him. And then one morning he was gone.
Wow.
Well, yeah, that was a little hard because you start getting attached.
Sure.
And,
And is that kind of just standard? Just
I don't think it is anymore. I think back then, I don't know, it's whatever mood they're in or something. I don't know, but yeah. And so then he was just gone.
hmm
But they did take my information and they pass it on to the parents and leave it up to, the adopted parents, and
hmm
tell them that I want the baby to have contact with me if he ever wants to. And so that's how they pretty much found me.
You told them that you would like it if he tried to
Yeah,
contact you later.
right. And Jody and I have been looking for years and years trying to find him, but we never had any luck. And Bill, my son, his mom had my information all along, I guess, but she didn't really want to share it.
Hmm.
And finally, not too long ago, he demanded it, and she gave it to him, and he found me on Christmas Eve a couple of years ago.
Yeah, me and Laura have talked about this, and Laura kind of enlightened me because this is kind of what she does. She's an
Right.
adoption specialist and works in adoption and maternity and all that and surrogacy. And what I had thought, my opinion was like, well, if he doesn't want to meet anybody in the family, that's on him. Fine with me. No, it's not really my business. But she kind of said, I think it's important that he does or anybody does, because that's part
Right.
of who you are. And that's part
Yeah.
of your makeup, genetically and otherwise. And I just hadn't really thought of it as being important, but she definitely thinks it is, and I think she's got a point.
I think the scary thing was when he sent me this email with my mom, and he sent me this email explaining who he was, and I thought, oh my gosh, is he angry? Is he
Hmm.
turning into somebody that's going to, chop my head off, or what's going to happen? I didn't know how he felt. I was scared
Hmm.
to death, and I wanted to think, okay, this is good, but part of me is going, I read too many books, that's it.
Hmm.
But so I got hold of Jody and sent her a copy of what he wrote, so she got hold of him. and talked to him and said, no, he's not bitter. He understands 100%, and he does. And he had no bad feelings. He has really good parents, and he's doing fine. So he's really close to his mom, his adoptive mom. So
yeah.
And he has no bad feelings, and we're probably never going to have the tightness that him and his adoptive mom have, because she's been his mom forever.
Right.
But it's just good to know that he's alive and well, and no bad feelings. And he's got a daughter and a little grandbaby right now.
Right. Well, and then of course, Jen, my oldest sister, and him share the same dad, and it's interesting that out of, him, Jen, Jody, me, Kobe, they're the only ones that share the same father, right?
Well, it's nice of you to bring that up.
Huh?
Nice of you to bring that up.
Well, I just...
Yeah, they had the same parents, and that's part of the reason why I thought Bill would be so angry, because a year later I have another baby by the same dad, and I kept her.
Right.
By then, I was smarter. I knew I couldn't go through that again, just, waking up one day and the baby's gone. And, I knew I could get help if they needed help. And I knew there was people that would reach out and help me. So it made a big, big difference. And I still raised Jennifer totally by myself. But,
right.
But it worked out okay. And that's what my biggest thing. I thought Bill would not understand that, but he seems to. He said he understood, and that was fine. So,
does he understand with maybe some hard feelings, or is he just like, I get it, that's how it was, and
yeah, that's how I'm taking it. Is he just accepts it?
Mm-hmm.
It's not good or bad. It is what it is. And he probably, if he had been put with really horrible parents, it might have been a different story. But he has no bad feelings about anything, and yeah, he seems okay. And I think he'd rather, be put in a good family than drug around me trying to figure out what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So.
And she seemed like a nice lady. What's his mom's name?
Sandra,
yeah. We met that one time. She seemed nice, yeah.
Yeah, she's super nice. Yeah, she spoils him pretty bad, though.
Well, have you had many conversations with her about Bill or about the adoption since then?
Yeah, we've talked quite a bit about it, and talked to her a lot. And her fear was I was going to move back in and try to replace her, which I never would. That's his mom. So,
mm-hmm.
But they were an older couple when they adopted, and which surprised me. But I don't know, they just loved him the minute they got him. She sent me pictures of him, and of him and his dad and her, and so it worked out good.
Oh, well, how long ago was it that he got a hold of you? Was it how many years?
It was a year ago, 2 years ago, Christmas. It'll be 2 years on Christmas Eve.
Oh, just 2 years ago. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is his dad still alive?
No, his dad died. Well, his dad died like a few weeks after I hooked up with Bill. He was in the hospital, and when I was talking to him, in fact, and yeah, so it was real recent.
Well, so the experience wasn't necessarily pleasant. Do you still feel like it was the right thing to do?
Yeah, there's lots of things I would have done different, and I think now there's more programs geared to this sort of thing that could have reached out and helped, and I could have gotten to some classes to figure out what in the heck I'm doing. I could have found out, I can raise a baby. It's not, it's not something I can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the opportunity is easier now. It's not a big deal to have a baby and being single. Back then, it was pretty not common.
Mm-hmm. Well, you did it with all of us, really, on your own.
Yeah.
and we all turned out pretty good, I think.
Yeah, I do too. I do too.
What do you think that the program was really? I don't know how I want to say it. Were they just trying to
Were
just
they
get
were they
get children for adoption, and they were trying to make that just happen, and it wasn't really about helping the mothers succeed. Was it more of kind of just a adoption farm?
right? Yep, I've thought that a lot, and I can't say that's what happened, but that's when I think back on it. I think, they could have told me there was other options, but they didn't. They kind of brush over it, and well, this is what you need to do, and I trust everybody 100 times, and so I thought, well, they're professionals. They know what they're talking. I keep thinking about those little 12-year-old girls that were in there. How horrible and scary that must have been for them. Because we're all, we're shipped in from all over Oregon, so nobody come to visit yet. There's no family popping in to see you or anything. So, yeah, but I don't know. I wonder that a lot myself, if that's what was going on, because they just didn't leave much room for any other options. And I met two of the girls I went to school with. They had gone to the same place and done the same thing, just like months or so before me or after me. It was funny. It was, and they said the same thing. They didn't know what else to do, and this is what they were advised to do, so that's what they did.
And did your did Grandpa and Grandma, did they know what? Well, I guess you said you called Grandma, right?
Yeah.
And did they just back up? Like, no, just put them up for adoption. There's nothing else to do.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, this is nothing they wanted to bring home, and they probably didn't know any more than I did about other options, so I don't know. I think, they was pretty unhappy with me,
Yeah.
but they got over it. Yeah.
So how much younger is Jen than Bill? Is it a year or a couple of years?
1 year.
1 year.
1 year, a couple days.
So what was different between the year that you were pregnant with him and a year later in your life? Were you just in a better place, or just had a better understanding of what you could do?
I think when I woke up and saw that baby gone out of the bed, then it just kind of changed me as a person. I just decided, no, don't boss me around. And so it's, 3 months later, when Dan came home on leave, I ended up pregnant, and he was in the Marines forever, and it seemed like. And my mother's dad and his wife they lived in Minnesota, and they were coming down to visit, and they said, well, we're going to take her back there with us. And so I said, okay, because I had nothing else to do, and so I went back there. And I guess the whole plan then was same thing, give the baby up for adoption. Nobody will know, but I went to that hospital, and I says, no, I'm taking it home with me. And I did, and my granddad and his wife were both real supportive to that idea. She got me material to make baby clothes and blankets and stuff, and they were real supportive to that idea, so they didn't try to talk me out of it or anything. And then when I went home, they took me back home, and I remember I called my dad, and I said, Dad, I'm stuck up here, and I don't know where I'm at. Can you just come and get me? He said, okay, I'll come and get you. Where are you at? And so, I knew all was forgiven. So.
Yeah, I'm just imagining being in this home, and of course I'm picturing it being like all cement and, white linen bunk beds and
we had single beds.
Yeah, single beds, and like Nurse Ratched, and then you wake up and the baby's gone, and I'm just like, it's like breaking my heart just to think of that, after 10 days even.
Yeah.
And because I know how much I love my kids, and even the one that isn't mine. And
Yeah.
just like that one is hurting, and I can see how in no way would you want to go through that again.
Changes are big, but there was a nurse there, and she was about 4 foot tall, and she had heavy eyebrows and black bangs. That's all I remember. And we called her Nurse Hatchet.
Hatchet?
Hatchet.
That's funny.
When we go over there, we was not allowed to talk. We had to stand in line because we'd all have to go together for a pee test or whatever was going on. And she would have us in line. We wasn't allowed to say one word to each other, except for when we were in our own rooms, and we could talk. There's a community room we could talk, but for anywhere else, in the halls or anything, no talking. Eating lunch, no talking.
Yeah, that sounds real comfortable.
Yeah, it's probably changed a lot now, I'm sure.
Well, I would hope. I'm sure they'd be on the news if it were still like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, in talking to Laura, there's still a lot of, shady stuff that goes on with adoption, even here in the States. There's just a lot of, I don't know if black market's the right word for it, but, there's some stuff going on, and especially internationally, I think it's worse. But,
I think so.
I haven't heard most of this stuff before. I mean, I kind of knew about it, but I didn't know the particulars.
And I never tried keeping it a secret because they always come back and knock you out. So I try not to keep a secret, but it's hard to talk about.
Yeah.
I always felt like people were judging me, especially when I had Jennifer and I kept her. Well, why'd you keep her and not Bill? And nobody gets it. I just couldn't do it again. So. Yeah.
And so, so when Jen was born, were you back in Reedsport, or were you up in Portland again?
I was in Portland. Yeah.
When did you go back to Reedsport?
I don't know. I've been back and forth there a million times. Yeah. Yeah, I never settled very long, very much. A couple of years was good.
We ended up, we were in Reedsport until, I think, 8th or 9th grade for me, from being in Astoria for a little bit, which I don't remember at all, so I don't have anything to say.
There a couple of years. Well, you were born there, and then, a couple of years, then we moved down to Reedsport, and you went to school there, and then we moved over to Arizona, and you said you hated me, you hated Arizona, and when you're 18, you're leaving, and you're going back to Reedsport. And then you loved Arizona.
Yeah.
Never going back to Reedsport.
Which I never did. And, I was just more upset we were moving in the middle of basketball season.
Yeah.
And then I remember Coach Palermo, he said, well, do you think your mom would let you live with us until the end of basketball season? And I didn't like that idea. I actually was kind of creeped out by that idea. So I was like, nah, I think I'll just go. But, I mean, that bothered me. But then, once I got to Arizona, and it was like a whole new world, it was big, and I got to drive, right after we moved there. And, then it became like, oh, okay, yeah, this isn't so bad. But then the funny thing is once I left Arizona, I never went back to Arizona either.
I know.
So.
But when you got to Idaho, it was like, because you came there out of the service, and you're going, why in the hell are we here?
Right.
And then pretty soon it's, I love Idaho. I'll never leave Idaho.
And then I left Idaho. But then Idaho, I did go back. But
yeah.
But so in Arizona, I think it was around, I don't know, 96? Is that when, 95, 96, is that when Kobe came into the picture?
Yeah, probably, about 94. He's about 2.5.
And so how did you hear, I mean, I don't want to get too much into what was going on with him and at the time, but at some point you heard maybe they were going to place him in an adoption or a foster care situation?
No, Kobe was my great nephew, and I have been around him quite a bit, and my husband, and we just loved him, and he was so funny and always laughing, and we just thought he's a great kid. And the mom was going through struggles of her own with someone, and just not doing well. And so we, at that time, when my husband was still alive, said, well, how about we keep him? And she would bring him up for a few days, but she'd come back and get him. And then my husband passed away, and then I decided to move to Arizona, and she was going through really tough times, not making 100% good choices. And so I asked her again, and about 2 days before I left, if I could take him with me, and no. So then after I got there, then I kept hearing that she wasn't doing well and this and that. And he ended up with my sister. And my sister's husband was sick, and he was a construction worker, the kind that go from town to town. He was working on the pipeline, I think. And so they couldn't really keep him. And I said, I'll take him if I can do it for keeps. Yeah. And so she got hold of her daughter and asked her, and she said, okay. So I went ahead and had the papers drawn up and picked him up from my sister. Had him since.
And that was weren't they in Northern California somewhere? Something like that?
Yeah, I keep thinking they were down by Baker or somewhere.
That's what I was thinking, Stockton or something.
Yeah.
Because I remember I didn't go, but my friend Ian went with you, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, somebody did, I remember.
And I wasn't psyched about it. I don't remember. I don't know. I didn't like the idea of having a little brother at the time. And
probably not.
I caught on real quick because he was fun. I'm sure he was just funny, and he had all kinds of energy. And what used to crack me up is when he would get really tired and start melting down. He would just kind of be laughing, just kind of doing this kind of pathetic, half awake, half asleep, laughing, and 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 then me and him, because you would work. Didn't you work like every other Saturday or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. I think I worked 4 days off on and then 4 days off or something.
Yeah, so me and him would end up spending quite a bit of time together, and I remember I'd end up dropping him at daycare and picking him up and hanging out on those Saturdays, and so we. And
I remember you taking him to the malls and using them as date bait.
Oh yeah, I took him. Yeah, that was. I think that was pretty. That was like bringing a puppy or something to the mall.
Yeah,
he had that bright red hair and
very big green eyes.
Yeah. So what do you think, though? I mean, so you just had built a relationship with them previously when Willie was around, and you just didn't want him to go through the system, or what was your kind of decision?
Well, I was just kind of. I don't know, I just thought he's an awesome kid. He stayed with my sister a lot, my other sister a lot too, and I don't know, we just liked him and thought he needed a home, and I thought I could give him one. So I think my husband had just passed away too, so I was kind of at loose ends and kind of filled up gaps in my life.
Was there any feeling of redemption, since you had already placed a child for an adoption? Was there any feeling of I'm making up for a not necessarily a past mistake, but something?
No, it was totally didn't have nothing to do with it. It was like two separate lives when I had Bill. It was like when after I had him, my life there was over. Then I just started all over again with Jennifer. It was just something bad that happened, and the baby was gone, and I had to move on, and I was a stronger person, and that's what I did.
Mm-hmm. Does he talk to his mom still, or do you talk to his mom still? Kobe's, I mean? I
haven't talked to Tammy for quite a while, but I talked to her mom a couple days ago, and she's doing really super good. She's got it together, and she's helping take care of her nephews, and she's really, really done a lot of growing up, and she's become a very good person. And Geno's had relationships on and off, but it was mostly when he was a teenager, and he kind of would pit us against each other. She'd say, "Come up here and you could drive my Dodge pickup without a license." And
Yeah.
I would be down here, "No, you're not." And so he kind of pitted us against each other. But she's okay, and I don't think he has much of a relationship with her. I think she's been around to see the baby a few times, but I don't think they have a real closeness. But
Mm-hmm. One thing that was always, kind of watching from my angle was that you definitely were the right person to come into his life, because you went to bat for him more times than I can even count, and I'm sure there was some I didn't even know about. But I remember constant, appointments with doctors over meds and over this and that, and at school, and always having his back when
he had lots and lots of emotional problems, and where they stem from exactly, I don't know, but he didn't want to get too close to anybody, but he didn't want you to go away either. So he was just really a confused, angry little boy, and that doesn't leave very easy.
What I find interesting is this kind of happens with McConey sometimes, where he'll kind of wild out and throw a chair, or start cussing somebody out, and when you know him, or even when you don't know him, you kind of go, "Really? Him?" He's a sweetheart. He's adorable. He's funny. And you just and it's kind of hard to get those two things to match up.
Right.
Like, how can that? But then you can. But it's like he reserves that behavior.
Exactly. I don't think they outgrow the anger.
Mm-hmm.
I think they learn to live with it. They learn to live around it. They learn to control it a little better. But I think it's always going to be buried down in there. I just don't think it goes away.
Mm-hmm.
It's just there. It's just, they just have to learn how to fine tune it so they can get on with their life the best they can.
Did anybody have reservations about you bring him in and adopting him? Anybody in the family, or?
Nope. Everybody thought it was a great idea.
That's good.
Yeah. It's always had kids at my house, and always liked kids, and all my kids had friends that were at the house all the time. And when we lived in Reesport, a couple of times, even when the police would bring up these teenage girls and say, their parents are having a bad night. I don't want to take these kids because they'll get in the system. Can they just spend the night here? And they would spend the night with us. And so I think everybody trusted me as a parent. There was lots of kids around.
I remember in high school, my friend Ian, he was always around, to the point where we were having his birthday at our house. He was there on, like Christmas morning. And,
right.
It was always kid friendly. The house, especially in Reesport, that house was gigantic. And the Christmases and things we used to have when everybody would pile in, it was like the only house big enough to accommodate all those people. But those were so fun to me.
Yeah.
Just all that family there, and it was always just food and laughing and wrestling with cousins, and it was good. It was fun. That's what I remember about that. And but Arizona was a different place, and I can't believe somebody as fair skinned as Kobe survived down there in that heat and that sun.
I know. And he never burned, except one time. No, he didn't burn. He's never burnt. He was good. One time, my sister Phyllis, his aunt, and myself and him had tubes and was going down the river in Roseburg, and we had a lot of sun, but he was on a lot of medication then, and for some reason he just blistered, his whole body just blistered, and we don't know if it's because of the medication he took or what, but oh my gosh, he was so miserable. It was horrible. But I don't know, that's the only time he's ever burned. But
so in both cases, would you do the same thing either time, or would
No,
you? No.
no, there's no way I would do that. Give up a baby again. I don't care what I'd have to do. I'd figure out a way. That's that's just too horrible. And I'll tell you, until we finally met up. And he's almost 50, and until we met up, every time when I was little, I'd see a baby. I go, I wonder if that's him. As his age, as he crosses, every time I see somebody, I wonder if that's him. And when he was born, there was a little trouble, and he had these red marks on his head where they had to gently pull him out. And I thought maybe they'll stay and I'll recognize him from that.
Yeah.
So I'm always watching for those red marks on people, and of course they went away. But no, forever you just keep looking, thinking that could be him, and then you think, oh no, what if something happened to him? And it's never a closed book. So,
what went through your head when you got that message from him after all those years?
I was just stunned, and my mom was there, and it made it probably a little more difficult than it could have been. But my first thought was, oh my gosh, how cool. And then my second thought was, is this a fake? My third thought was, what if he's just angry at me? So those three thoughts went through my head instantly, just bam, bam, bam.
Did that ease any of that, or did the message just leave you confused, or what was that's when I got hold of, I sent it to Jody, and she went and emailed him, and she questioned him really good because she had all the info, and I was at my mom's, so I didn't know the adoption agency or anything to verify anything he was saying. And she did. She had it at her house, so she talked to him, and she said, it's him. That's your son. Wow.
Yeah.
What did she think about all that?
She's pretty excited.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because her and him are halves, but they are so much alike. Their religion, same thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Politics, same thoughts. They both think they're smart. and their personalities are so much alike. It's just funny that they wasn't even raised in the same house.
Yeah.
And they're so much alike. It's really odd.
And now, you mentioned he's got a daughter and now a granddaughter. Do you speak to the daughter very often?
She's got a grandson.
Or grandson, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I talk to her about once a week or every other week or something. I'll send her a note and see how school's going and jobs like that. It's going, just generalize it. Try not to get overbearing and stuff, but just let her know I'm thinking about her and the baby.
So it's interesting. You reunite and it creates a whole new family.
Yeah, extended family because
extended, yeah.
I mean, Sandra. I liked her right off, and it just seems like I've known each other forever. Yeah, she came to our Mother's Day, and that's how we met her on Mother's Day. So
yeah, that was a pretty big moment to have all. Most of us there, but to meet her, she was nice, and to meet Bill, he was nice, and his
and the daughter,
I didn't really know what to expect, and I was not
I
really.
don't think any of us did.
And I wasn't. I don't know. Nervous isn't the right word, but I just was like, I don't know what's gonna happen, and how weird is this gonna be, or is it gonna be like, is it just gonna click instantly, and and I don't know. I don't think either of those things happened actually, but
it turned out good, and I think if we never said another word to each other again, I think it just brought us both a lot of satisfaction knowing that he knows I'm his mom and why and what. I answered questions, and I know he's grown up to be a fine young man, or old man now. And I just think it brought us a lot of closure that we both needed. So.
And so he said kind of right off the bat that he knew why you did what you did, and and he hasn't come at you with
no.
Wow, that's good. But I wonder if that came with age, or
No, I think he said that's how his mom explained it to him. Yeah, she's never badmouthed me or nothing. She just told him I was young and couldn't take care of him, put him in a home that could. So, yeah, I give her 100% credit on that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was good.
Well, we're almost out of time. Is there, here's something I want to bring up that you brought up earlier that doesn't have anything to do with the adoption, but I really liked the question. And it was, you said earlier today before we were recording about how you were kind of like in the peace and love generation and everybody was equal. And, how do you bring up somebody? How do you have someone acknowledge their roots, which in my case is Native American, and honor those traditions and teach them to be proud of their heritage while also saying everybody's equal? And I thought that was a really interesting question, because you had said you were worried when I asked you to be on the podcast that it was going to be me pinging you about raising me more Native when you were, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
You have any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I still don't know what my question is, and I don't know what my answer is. I'm just thinking, I tried to influence you with Native American as much as I could, being white, but at the same time, I want you to be just as proud of, my side of the family too, even though we're a bunch of screwballs and mixed breeds, whatever. But I just and I wonder how, because I do think heritage is important. Jody's dad was 100% German, and I think that's pretty cool. But because you don't get that anymore. But at the same time, we're all equal. So does it really matter, or is it just a personal growth thing that you need to figure out yourself? Or I don't know. We were taught one way for years, and then we're taught another way for years, and I'm going to be taught another way for years, and so it's all kind of confusing. And I wonder what is the trend right now? Are we supposed to be, well, you're like 132th, whatever, so that makes you great, or is it like, well, you're 132th this, you're 132th that, you're 132th this, and so on down the road, which is more important? So. Or is it just who cares and let it go? Right.
Well, I always thought, in hindsight and even back in the day, like you did teach me and tell me to be proud of it, and you gave me what you knew, and I kind of filled in the gaps on the rest of it, not very well, but. You never tried to, make me deny it, or you made it clear back then it was a thing to be proud of, and I always appreciated that, and I still do. But I think that was a tough position to be in when you can't really teach somebody something you don't know. Though people try. But I don't have any issues with any of the ways that I was brought up. I look back pretty fondly on my childhood. I just remember a lot of laughs, and especially when you and me and Jody and Jen, when we could all actually be together, and I remember a lot of card games, and it was just fun. We all, and Jody and Jen, and they were always looking out for me. And
I think a lot of times it was like my dad. He couldn't be with us a lot, but when he did, he made up for it. And I think I tried doing that. But I remember one time when I was just working 2 jobs and never seen anybody, and so I went up to all of your schools and got you out of school. Told the administration that there was an emergency at home, and we went over and got pizza and went down to the Triangle and hung out and fed Siegel's Pizza.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, just for fun.
I used to do that with bands to the point where they stopped even questioning me. Where, he got out of school at like 3, and I would show up at 1, and I'm like, yeah, I gotta take him out, and they're like, does he have an appointment or something? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
To the point where I would just walk in, and they'd kind of just, wave me
Yeah.
in. Yeah, go ahead. And just because I wanted to be around him.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was a good life. There's tough times, but we did do a lot of laughing and do a lot of things together.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciated what we had and enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, that's about an hour we've already talked. Can you believe that?
No.
Yeah, that went fast. Yeah, I really appreciate you being kind of open about all this in front of a bunch of people that are going to hear that. You feel weird about that at all?
No. When you started first grade and you was worried about it, and I said, Geno, there's just 28 friends you haven't met yet. And so you went to school feeling good about meeting 28 new friends. So that's all I think of strangers, just people I haven't met yet, friends I haven't met.
Do you know that I remember that like vividly?
Oh, you do?
Yeah, that's one of my earliest memories. I remember being terrified, and I remember thinking I was going to be the only new person, and you said they're all new.
Yeah.
They're all going to be new. Nobody knows anybody. It's just a chance to make friends and meet, and because I think I was kind of shy back then.
Yeah, you were very shy. Well, you were little. You were a little tiny kid.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I remember that. I remember that pretty well. And the other thing I remember about that day was I remember kind of waking up and I was looking around and I was like, where are my clothes? And you kind of said like, well, you're a big kid now. You can pick your own clothes. And I was like, what the hell? What the hell is going on here? I got to choose my own clothes and be around a bunch of weird people. This doesn't sound good at all. But,
it all turned out fine.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on and being open and being on my podcast. I really appreciate it.
Well, I feel honored to be your guest.
Oh, okay. Have you listened to it at all?
Yeah, I've listened to all of them.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's good.
Yeah.
You're a supporter then.
Oh yeah. Sometimes I don't have to agree with everything, but
Right.
I enjoy listening to everybody's views and stuff, and yeah, I enjoy them.
It really became something else from what I intended it to be, what I actually like where it's going, because I think everybody has a story that they would like to be heard, and some people have really interesting stories and really hard stories, and I think one guy said that being on here was almost therapeutic in a way, just kind of get some stuff that he's been carrying around a little bit. And,
I can see that.
But I like doing it, and I like, as much as I don't love people a lot of the time, I kind of love talking to people. And
I think you love people more than you think you do.
Probably more than I project that I do.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for calling me all the way from Missouri and being on the show.
All right, thank you.
Bye. Hey, everybody, how's it going? This is Geno Ray, the host of Native as I Can Be, Between Two Cultures. Welcome to the show. No show last week, as you die-hard fans probably noticed. We were in Sun River, Oregon, which is a little bit south of Bend. Just taking some time, kind of recharge our batteries and just have a few days off to just not have a schedule and, just lounge around looking at TV. And it was good. Sun River was cool. Bend's really cool. I didn't know anything about Bend before we got there. And it seemed pretty cool. I'd like to go back and spend some more time there sometime. Because I'd always wondered, I would be looking at bands touring, and I would go, why are bands going to Bend, Oregon? I thought Bend was kind of one of those places you just drove through on the way to someplace better. But turns out they got this huge like outdoor amphitheater and tons of breweries, and it's sunny like 300 days out of the year. And I don't know, looks like a cool place. I'd like to go back and check it out a little more sometime. So that's why there was no show last week. This week is this will be a good episode this week. I'm interviewing my mom, whose name is Karen, and as we are in the midst of Adoption Awareness Month, which I mentioned a couple episodes back with Ostrid Castro. So as I've mentioned a couple times, I have an older brother named Bill who my mom placed for adoption. He would be my oldest brother, and I think she was 18 or 19 at the time. I'll let her tell all that story, but so I have an older brother who was placed on for adoption, and then of course my younger brother Kobe was adopted, and he would actually, be my second cousin, but he's my little brother, and that's what he's been since he came into the fold. And I think he was 2 at the time, maybe 3. But so I thought I would just talk to my mom about the different emotions and processes involved with placing a kid for adoption, and then of course adopting a child later on, and just kind of see where her head was at, where her heart was at, and how difficult a decision that was, both times or either time. So that's what we got going on this week. I've got a couple leads on some interviews about the Klamath tribe and termination. Got those coming up, and I'm going to try and get those all scheduled and squared away this week for next week's show. And aside from that, it's good to be back creating a new episode. I actually missed it last week. I kind of missed just having this little outlet to just kind of talk and hear people's stories. And what's funny is that I've been labeled as maybe not the friendliest person in the world, and I don't kind of go out of my way to make friends, and I don't go out of my way to kind of talk to everybody I work with and things like that. And that's all true. I don't do any of those things. But I actually enjoy talking to people on this podcast platform. And so maybe it's not so much I'm not that friendly. It's maybe more I just don't love small talk. I'm not that interested in people's route to work and that kind of thing. So maybe it's I just need to elevate small talk to medium talk, and maybe I'll come across a little friendlier. But I realized that a couple days ago that I like talking to people, and I also do not like talking to people. So go figure. But anyways, stay tuned. This is Native as I Can Be. My guest this week is my mom, Karen. Let's go.